So it is December 13th, 2020, and I want to know how you're doing. No, really, how are you doing? Let's check in. How have you made life tolerable in these times, these days where we might wonder if we are days away from a civil war? Times when we are staving off the rage of having lost a dear one, a family member or friend to COVID-19, knowing that it could have been different. How does it feel to know your children have lost a year of child-centered learning? How do you feel knowing that you are missing precious months of your grandchild's baby years, or the remaining healthy months of your parents' vitality? How does it feel to wonder every second if you are safe? Seriously, how does it feel? The other day, a colleague of mine in ministry decided to hold a pity party for her congregation. No judgment, no trying to make each other feel better, just a Zoom pity party to clear the way for something else, maybe authenticity, maybe after that, even gratitude. So, if you are in the live stream chat, maybe tell us how you are. If you are in a room with someone else, turn to them. Tell that person how you're doing. If you are alone right now, maybe just scream your status into the room. So let's take a moment with just one word or short phrase to check in and share how you are. During the recent election week, first week of November, which was arguably one of the most stressful weeks of one of the most stressful years, when people asked me how I was doing, how I was making it through, I could honestly say I was doing well. Now let's dissect all the things, the multitude of actions I was taking on behalf of myself that week just to endure each day. First, there was an hour of socially distanced exercise beginning at 6:45 each day with good friends on the street in front of their house, followed by going home for 10 minutes of journaling each morning, followed by 20 minutes of meditation with you. Some of you were meditating with me out there. Followed by a 90-minute walk each morning in my neighborhood, which was about 8,000 steps or so. Followed by soccer or bike riding or croquet or just chasing tag with my 5-year-old sons. Followed by tons of hugs, kisses, random massages from all family members all day long, followed by prayers of gratitude and lighting a chalice before each evening meal, followed by a few minutes of restorative yoga poses before bed, capped off by a guided meditation from an app called Insight Timer on my phone. That week was like Olympic-level training for self-care. All of those actions, that was all that was required to stay regulated, for me to stay regulated and to stay present and in my body and not disassociate or fall down an anxiety spiral until I was unable to function. And if I'm honest, truly, that was one of the best weeks in recent memory for me. I mean, I felt great. I want you to hear me say, we are all, each of us, experiencing trauma. Collective trauma right now. Each of us in our own ways. But we are all traumatized by the events of this past year, and for some of us, these past 4 years. Particularly as the pandemic has raged on and we have felt powerless to stop the spread, disoriented and confused about how to protect ourselves and our loved ones, judging and blaming. And many of us were reminded of other times in our lives, perhaps from childhood, when things felt similarly out of control. Maybe you had a parent who simply could not keep you safe, or made you feel lonely, or powerless, or uncared for. Maybe at another time in your life you've had a boyfriend or a partner or a boss who lied to you relentlessly until you questioned your own reality. Or perhaps you had a parent or another adult in your life who unexpectedly at times became dangerous, abusive, and damaging. For many trauma survivors, self-numbing is the way to protect your mind from going back to that place of deep hurt, that place sometimes of childhood. Sometimes numbing out is the only way to stay in control of yourself. And that way we can disassociate from the anxiety and, in a sense, part ways with our body, fail to notice that we have been holding our breath or clenching our jaw for much of the day. The psychologist Bessel van der Kolk's seminal text, "The Body Keeps the Score," explores the connection between somatic healing of the body and healing the brain from trauma, those neural pathways. Van der Kolk teaches us when people are chronically angry and scared, constant muscle tension ultimately leads to spasms, to back pain or neck pain, migraine headaches, and other forms of chronic pain. When the autonomic nervous system is working, it triggers our brain's basic sense of survival, which is the sympathetic nervous system. That's what protects us. It sends off an adrenaline surge. Meanwhile, the parasympathetic nervous system uses different chemicals to regulate our body, to focus it on healing. And when we are at our best, these two systems work closely together to keep us in an optimal stage of engagement, of mind and body connection and regulation. Inhaling and exhaling mindfully keeps these two parts of the brain in balance. Keeps them balanced. When our autonomic nervous system is well balanced, then we have a reasonable degree of control over our responses to frustrations, to disappointments, enabling us to calmly assess what is going on when we may feel insulted or left out or even abused. And if we can stay calm, then we can choose how we want to respond and not get thrown off balance so easily. If we can stay anchored to our breath and to the present moment, then we can resist flying off the handle and lashing out in anger or anxiety or frustration or whatever veil covers up your hurt and fear. The 13th century Persian poet Rumi writes, "This being human is a guest house. Every morning is a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Treat each guest honorably. the dark thoughts, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Ancient wisdom. Meet them at the door laughing. This is ancient wisdom to guide us towards self-compassion and self-love. One of the great spiritual practices of my lifetime is to meet the house guests of my anxieties at the door laughing, if I can, on a good day, to stay tongue-in-cheek about my personality's lifelong patterns. This keeps me both self-aware and self-loving at the same time. To greet all the parts of one's personality with self-aware laughter, it's a daily discipline to cultivate, especially if you did not receive the message from your parents that you were a delightful child. This can be a serious challenge, I know. But staying in the body, staying in the present moment with yourself, even through times of great anxiety, and staying emotionally regulated, that is a great challenge. We can work on it our whole lives. There are a variety of pathways to self-regulation. You know, there's a reason we find singing together so healing. Van der Kolk reminds us of the ways collective movement and music create a larger context for our lives, a meaning beyond just our individual fate. Religious rituals universally involve rhythmic movements, from davening at the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem to the sung liturgy and gesture of the Catholic Mass, to moving meditation in Buddhist ceremonies, to the rhythmic prayer rituals performed 5 times a day by devout Muslims. Music, the backbone of the civil rights movement. Anyone alive at that time will never forget the lines of marchers, arms linked, singing, "We shall overcome," as they walked steadily towards the police who were amassed to stop them. Music binds people together who might individually be terrified, but who collectively become powerful advocates for themselves and for others. Dancing, marching, singing, these are communal ways to instill hope and courage. I believe because our trauma is collective and individual, our healing will need to be both individual and collective. This is why I knew right at the beginning of the pandemic I wanted to incorporate the movement prayer into our weekly worship. I wanted our bodies to become accustomed to shared movement across distance, especially since we couldn't sing together any longer. I wanted us to have collective movement each week. The movement prayer gives us the chance also to hug ourselves, to breathe deeply together, to look to the heavens or to the sky. My hope is that in times of emotional dysregulation, stress, and anguish, that our UU kids who do the movement prayer every week, that they know they can access it to help calm themselves, calm their bodies, to take a pause. And we know, as soon as it is safe, we will need to gather, to sing together, to dance, to cry, whether it's tears of relief or anguish for what we have lost. Words will not be enough. Our souls will cry out through our bodies, moving through space, making a communal rhythm of connection and healing. And in the meantime, to build our resilience until that day arrives, we have some work we can do with ourselves to notice, to be present with ourselves and notice our reactions, to love ourselves with some humor as we notice our patterns of response. Resmaa Menakem, whose voice we heard earlier, he's been speaking and writing about ancestral trauma for Black, Indigenous people of color in his fantastic book, My Grandmother's Hands. He has also worked as a trauma consultant for the Minneapolis public school system and the Minneapolis Police Department in the wake of George Floyd's murder this past spring. And he has worked as a community care counselor for families on U.S. military bases in Afghanistan. Menakem often repeats the phrase, "We are energy, trying to have a human experience." If you become activated, you will know this. It often happens when we are experiencing a conflict in real time or we are being re-traumatized. Our heart begins to speed up. Maybe we blush or get a rash across our neck. We tighten our grip on our position. We become flooded with emotion, either anger or fear. Resmaa Menakem offers 5 anchors for us to manage these floods of anxiety and reaction. He works specifically with people of color and bodies of culture, as he says. He invites you first to the first anchor: settle, calm, soothe the mind, heart, and body. This is a pause. I want you to know I am working on all of this too. We can work on it together. Take a pause before reacting at all. What would that be like? Together, maybe in a meeting or with family members when something becomes heated, to pause, to settle, calm yourself, take the space. Next, anchor 2. Notice the sensations and the emotions without reacting to them. Just notice. Anchor 3. Accept the discomfort and sit with it rather than trying to flee, or in my case, fix the discomfort. Accept the discomfort and sit with it rather than trying to flee or fix it. Next, anchor 4. Stay present. Feel the ambiguity. Feel the experience of uncertainty. And then respond from the best part of yourself. And finally, his anchor tells us, anchor 5 is to safely discharge any energy that remains. That could be through walking, like I got to go take a walk, exercise, dancing, moving, safely discharge the energy that was created in that tension. Now, this is all fine to do once on a Sunday because your pastor says it will help you, but how can this become a daily practice? All of these methods of returning to your present self, returning to your body, they are a practice, meaning they only work if you treat them with discipline and do them each day. Once a week will not be enough. What I learned through the daily practice of meditation, even for those couple of weeks, is that I was better able to withstand myself. All the ridiculous and petty thoughts that were coming and going. By sitting with myself, my tolerance for myself grew. Once my tolerance for myself increased, then I was able to be a little lighter with myself, a little more loving and playful with myself. And I noticed once this happened, I was able to tolerate others more, their pettiness and their complexities. My reaction time slowed. I was able to sit with difficulty or ambiguity for much longer. Now, I know not everybody has twin 5-year-olds who bring the daily ambiguity, the difficulty, the challenge, but I'm sure you have some challenge in front of you that will test you in your ability to tolerate ambiguity. Imagine if we could keep this going. not just for days or weeks, but months and even years, who would we become, individually and collectively? A colleague of mine posted a picture on Facebook of an anxiety chart her 9-year-old daughter, Zoe, has displayed in the kitchen for the whole family to use. I would like to show it to you now as an example of playful awareness. So, as you can see, she begins with not exactly happy, seems to be how she feels in this pandemic time, beginning with not exactly happy, moving from mildly worried, very unsettled, purely scared, really afraid. Now we're at high sweat level, high alert, really paranoid, all the way to total freak out. The way the mouth moves from unhappy to screaming as the anxiety builds, that feels very true, doesn't it? I saw this, my friend posted it, and I felt an instant resonance, and it made me laugh. The images are cute and very true. This playful awareness, this is a crucial step towards noticing your own emotions and greeting them at the door with laughter, as the Sufi poet invites us to do. This is also a poignant reminder that our children are feeling all the anxieties along with us. So the next time you find yourself at high sweat level, engage your body's self-awareness tools. Take a pause, breathing in and out. Notice what is going on. Stay present. Stay with the uncertainty. Sometimes I wish we would take time to say more often, I am noticing some discomfort with myself, and I am not sure what to do right now. Make space for ambiguity that comes instead of that fight or flight reaction or the need to say the smartest thing in the room that will fix it all. I'm really preaching to myself here, folks, if you haven't noticed. We are on a journey, on our own and together, to fortify our resilience so that when we gather once again, we may even be stronger and more deeply connected to ourselves and to each other. There is so much spiritual work for us to do during this time until our bodies can rejoice together again, till we can offer new tools of resilience to one another, building a more authentic, just, and loving community. And until that day comes, may we remember the Sufi poet's words, Rumi's words, that every morning is a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Treat each guest honorably. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Amen, and blessed be.